Swami Ramdas. Life. Vital Rao was born in Kerala. He was married and lived as a householder until the age of 36. During those times, he had to face many trials and tribulations, both financially and domestically. Those dire conditions made him inquire deeply into the meaning of life. An intense spiritual transformation occurred, and he was filled with an overwhelming wave of dispassion. He realized the futility of pursuing worldly pleasures and the thirst for everlasting peace and happiness welled up within him. The teachings of Sri Ramakrishna Paramahansa, Swami Vivekananda, and Swami Ramtirtha inspired him, and he became convinced that God alone could give one eternal peace and absolute happiness. Thus, the path of devotion and surrender opened within him, and he felt irresistibly urged to follow it. All attachments to family, friends, dropped away, just as a fully ripened fruit falls down from the tree. Noticing Vital Rao's waning interest in worldly pursuits and his increasing love and devotion towards God, his father initiated him into the Ram mantra. Om Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Vital Rao intuitively added Om to each repetition of this mantra for his sadhana. The mantra soon took hold of him, and in around December 1922, he went forth in quest of God as a mendicant sadhu, never accepting money and never planning his journey. Vital Rao moved around like a dry leaf swept by the wind. At Sri Rangam, while taking a dip in the holy river Kaveri, he offered his white clothes to the sacred river and took on ochre robes. Prompted by his chosen Lord Ram, he assumed the name Ramdas, meaning servant of Rama. Ramdas never again referred to himself in the first person. In an anecdote, Swami Ramdas describes the state in which he traveled alone or in the company of other sadhus. This is what he said. They traveled to Kalahasti. After a day's stay there, they left for Jagannath Puri. It was noon. The sadhu Ram, who he called all sadhus, servants of God, and Ramdas were in the train. A ticket inspector, a Christian, dressed in European fashion, stepped into the carriage at a small station, and coming up to the sadhus asked for tickets. Sadhus carry no tickets, brother, for they neither possess nor care to possess any money, said Ramdas in English. The ticket inspector replied, "You can speak English. Educated as you are, you cannot travel without a ticket. I have to ask you both to get down." The sadhu Ram and he accordingly got down at the bidding of the inspector. "It is all Ram's will," assured Ramdas to his guide. They were now on the platform. There was still some time for the train to start. The ticket inspector, meanwhile, felt an inclination to talk to Ramdas, who, along with the sadhu Ram, was waiting for the train to depart. "Well," said the inspector, looking at Ramdas, May I know what is your idea in traveling in this manner? In quest of God, was his simple reply. But the inspector persisted. They say God is everywhere. Then where is the fun of your knocking about in search of him? Well, he is at the very place from which you started on this quest, as you say. Right, brother, replied Ramdas. God is everywhere. But Ramdas wants to have this fact actually proved by going to all places and realizing his presence everywhere. Well then, said the inspector, if you are discovering God wherever you go, you must be seeing him here, on this spot where you stand. Certainly, brother, rejoined Ramdas. He is here at the very place where we stand. Can you tell me where he is? Asked the inspector. Behold, he is here, standing in front of me, exclaimed Ramdas enthusiastically. Where? Where? Cried the inspector impatiently. Here, here, pointed Ramdas, smiling, patted on the broad chest of the inspector himself. In the tall figure standing in front of Ramdas, that is, in yourself, Ramdas clearly sees God who is everywhere. For a time, the inspector looked confused. Then he broke into a hearty fit of laughter. Opening the door of the compartment from which he had asked the sadhus to get down, he requested them to get in the train, and they did so, followed by him. He sat in the train with the sadhus for some time. I cannot disturb you any longer, friends. I wish you all success in your quest of God. With these words, he left the carriage and the train rolled on. O Ram, thy name be glorified. Those words were from Ramdas in Quest of God, about his autobiographical journey of his first year on the pilgrimage. Swami Ramdas' journey continued, and he found himself in holy Arunachala. There he met Bhagavan Sri Ramana Maharshi for the first time. He fell prostrate at his feet. Knowing that Sri Bhagavan knew English, Ramdas addressed him in that language, saying, Maharaj, here stands before you a humble slave. Have pity on him. His only prayer to you is to give him your blessings. About this experience, Swami Ramdas has said, the Maharshi, turning his beautiful eyes towards Ramdas and looking intently for a few minutes into his eyes, as though he was pouring into Ramdas his blessings, nodded his head to say he had blessed. A thrill of inexpressible joy coursed through the frame of Ramdas, his whole body quivering like a leaf in the breeze. In that ecstatic state, he left the Maharshi's presence and went to spend a few days in a cave on the slopes of Arunachala, constantly chanting the sacred name of his beloved Ram, Om Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. This was the first occasion that he went into solitude. During this period of solitude, he never bathed, shaved, or cut his hair. When he only ate very little. After 21 days, when he came out of the cave, he saw a strange, all-pervasive light. Everything was Ram, and there was nothing but Ram. He describes the revelation this way. And it came one morning when, lo, the entire landscape changed. Wherever Ramdas looked, all was Ram, nothing but Ram. Everything was ensouled by Ram, vivid, marvelous, and rapturous. The trees, the shrubs, the ants, the cows, as well as the cats and dogs, even inanimate things, pulsated with the marvelous presence of the one Ram. And Ramdas danced in joy, like a boy who, when given a lovely present, can't help breaking out into a dance. And so it was with Ramdas. He danced with joy and rushed at a tree in front of him, which he embraced, because it was not a tree, but Ram himself. A man was passing by. Ramdas ran towards him and embraced him, calling out, "Ram, oh Ram." The man got scared and bolted, running away some distance. But Ramdas ran towards him and embraced him, calling out, "Ram, oh Ram." The man noted that Ramdas had not a tooth in his mouth, and so felt a little reassured. At least the loony would not be able to bite him. Following his experience at Arunachala, Ramdas continued his travels for another 8 years in many parts of India. It was during this time that he had his first experience of Nirvikalpa Samadhi in the Pancha Pandava caves at Kadri in Mangalore. About this experience, it has been written in Quest for God this way. For some days, his meditation consisted of only the mental repetition of the Ram mantra. Then, the mantra having stopped automatically, he beheld a small circular light before his mental vision, which yielded him thrills of delight. This experience having continued for some days, he felt a dazzling light like lightning flashing before his eyes, which ultimately permeated and absorbed him. Now an inexpressible bliss filled every pore of his physical frame. When this state was coming on, he would at the outset become oblivious of his hands and feet, and gradually his entire body. Lost in this trance state, he would sit for 2 or 3 hours. Yet still, a subtle awareness of external objects was maintained in this state. In these earlier stages, this vision was occasionally lost, pulling him down to the old life of diversity with its turmoil of likes and dislikes, joy and grief. But he would be drawn in again into the silence and calmness of the spirit. And a stage was soon reached when this dwelling in the spirit became a permanent and unvarying experience with no more falling off from it. And then the still more exalted state came on. The inner vision projected outwards. And first, a glimpse of this new vision dazzled him off and on. This was the working of the divine love. He would feel as though his very soul had expanded like the blossoming of a flower, and by a flash enveloped the whole universe, embracing all in a subtle halo of love and light. This experience granted him a bliss infinitely greater than he had in the previous state. Now it was that Ramdas began to cry out, Ram is all. It is he as everybody and everything. This condition was for some months coming on and vanishing. When it wore away, he would instinctively go into solitude. When it was present, he freely mixed in the world, preaching the glory of divine love and bliss. With this externalized vision, Ramdas's mission began. Its fullness and magnificence was revealed to him during his stay in the Kadri cave. And here the experience became more sustained and continuous. The vision of God shone in his eyes, and he would see none but Ram in all objects. Now, wave after wave of joy arose in him. He realized he had attained a consciousness full of splendor, power, and bliss.